What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Steep Stuff Podcast. I'm your host, James Lariello, bringing you guys another Sunapee Scramble pre-race interview with the elite men and the elite women. This one is going to be with none other than 2023 Sunapee Scramble champion, Mr. Dan Kurtz. Was super excited to catch up with Dan on his drive back from the West Coast over to the East Coast. Dan is on his way back, actually has already made his way back to New Hampshire to start putting the final preparation on for race week and begin his taper. Really fun to chat with Dan. We caught up and talked about a lot of stuff. Like I said, for those of you who don't know, as you probably should, Dan is arguably the best mountain classic runner in the country, one of the best in the world. Hasn't really gotten an opportunity yet to prove it on a world stage at Worlds, which I think kind of lights the fire and gets him very excited to go after and chase another team this year. Yeah, I'm excited for him. We caught up to chat a lot of things pre-race. We talked about Dan's time in Boulder. He was out here in Colorado, living in Boulder for a bit, kind of living the van life and training high up at altitude and just putting a nice solid vertical block in, training with some of the best mountain runners in the country that included Johnny Lima, Kyle Richardson, and a few others. So that was kind of fun to chat about and catch up on, talk local trails. On top of that, we talked about the pressure and the weight to produce and make the team again. I know Dan was pretty open with talking about the pressure that he puts on himself to make this team and, to kind of come back and go to Worlds again. No doubt he will probably be able to do that. And then last but not least, we talked about this little rivalry with Mason Kopi. I don't know if I think we're still early in the process to call it a rivalry yet, but I think, we talked about Dan racing along with Mason racing the La Sportiva Sanitas Challenge, which was this small loop. I think it was like 2 or so miles up Sanitas and down, and just, how Mason got the better of Dan on the loop, and Dan had some frustration there. Dan was very open with it on the pod. We chatted about it, but I think it just lights the fire more, to just produce when these boys go out and race at Sunapee, just what it's going to be able to do, and just kind of elevate both athletes, as the fire is definitely lit for Dan to go produce on race day and Mason as well. So yeah, it's going to be fun to follow along. Wishing Dan the absolute best of luck in his pursuit of making another Worlds team. And yeah, I really appreciate that he was able to come on, especially given, it's not easy to just pull off the side of the road in I-70 and have a chat. And I really appreciate that he took the time to be able to sit down with me and have just a nice 30-minute convo going into the race. So wishing everybody the best of luck, and I hope you guys enjoy this one. This is a great one. Audio quality is a little iffy because Dan's on the phone in the middle of the highway, but we made it work. So thank you guys and enjoy this one. Dan Kurtz, welcome back to the Steep Stuff Podcast. How are you, man?
Hey, man. Yeah. Doing good. Just driving cross country at the moment, so hope the audio is good.
No, it's good. It's fine. Totally good. I'm glad I caught you, and we're able to get a convo in before Sunapee goes, man. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah. This is going to be like almost nitpicky, but it's so funny because it's funny how people say Sunapee differently. And a lot of people, it's basically Sunapee or Sunapee, which is funny because I think the Abenaki or Algonquin name for the lake, like, the native term, the word for the lake is Sunapee, like Soonipi.
Okay.
So it's spelled totally different, but that's the only way you'd be able to say it, I think.
So
I think it means like
you say Sunapee then? Is that correct? Is it
Yeah.
Okay, so I was pronouncing it wrong all
along
then. Okay.
But I guess my point actually is I think you might be actually pronouncing it correctly. And I think everyone I know, might be pronouncing it like this anglicized version of the word, but I think it means Lake of the Wild Goose or something like that.
Interesting. Damn, dude. Well, I appreciate that. That's always good to know. Like, it's a little background on that. Dude, I hate when I pronounce it wrong. You have no idea the amount of dude, I had Rachel T on the podcast the other day, and just trying to get her last name correct, I had to ask her.
Check.
Yeah. I just had her say it out loud. I'm like, Rachel, can you just say your last name so I don't butcher it? Yeah. It's
Rachel's awesome.
Oh, she's amazing. Her episode actually drops tomorrow. She's good people. Talk about a consummate professional, like just such a solid professional in the sport. Yeah, big
for sure.
Big Rachel fan. Dude, how are you doing? The last time we caught up, it was just before you kind of started making your way out west. This was like pre-Big Alta, pre-Canyons. pre like Brooks summit and stuff like that. So what's been going on since we caught up last time?
Yeah, just been training, just been out of the van training. Nothing else has been too important, and that's been pretty nice. So just training. Went out and raced canyons, so did a pretty big drive out there, and then came back and been based in Boulder again since then. So yeah.
Nice. Let's talk about canyons a little bit. Were you, because you raced and won the 25K, you did some really sick like jump over the thing or like a hurdle that looked kind of cool. I was impressed. I was impressed with that. I was like, damn, dude's got ups. How did that race go for you? Like, were you even tested at all, or was it just like a hard threshold effort or like a threshold effort training run for you? Like, how did that go?
Yeah. The race felt hard. I wanted to feel like I got a good effort in for sure. Basically, I didn't think many people were going to be racing the 25K who were going to be like I didn't think the race was going to be super competitive. So going in, I was kind of targeting, some like tests mid race. So there was this one segment in the race that like Jim has this KOM that's like very quick for like this 9-minute, like 20% grade climb. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of figuring it would be sweet to try to like time trial that, just full race, handful of miles into the race and see how you recover. And, but then the night before I realized, I got wind that like Eddie Owens was racing.
Okay.
And Eddie's very good, especially on those like California style trails. So I, decided that would be a stupid decision and, basically just ended up racing Eddie. And kind of came to the conclusion that I felt like basically all I'd been doing was hiking. I tweaked my knee when I got out to Boulder, basically, just because I was trying to start doing trail running off of having not done much vert. So anytime you do that, there's this big risk that, tendon stuff pops up. So really was only hiking. I did my first flat run the day I left for canyons. And then I did like a mix of flat and uphill workout in Salt Lake City on the way out. And the drive did not go perfectly, like got stuck in a blizzard the first day. And I had to wait 24 hours actually in this little town of like Rawlins, Wyoming. Oh yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah, they totally closed the highways.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
They closed the highways. And so I wasn't, like, so was supposed to do like a couple hour like vert run that day, and there was no trails or anything. So I just went up totally off trail in the snow, like in the blizzard, like up something behind town. And then, actually the next day it broke down in the van. I had a pulley just like totally stopped working. So I had no serpentine belt and, spent the next day sourcing parts. And then I ended up replacing it and getting the van back on the road. So, it was definitely an interesting trip getting out there. And then, the race went well. I just kind of wanted to push from the start, and kind of hurt Eddie's legs, I guess was my goal, was to like, put some fatigue into his legs on that first descent. I figured my advantage on him would be more vert stuff. So, wanted to force the issue on that. And, and that ended up working out. I definitely had a lot of question marks going into that race because I had just no idea where my fitness would be at, especially on such a runnable course. I was just kind of crossing my fingers that I've done enough running that I would be able to lean on like hiking fitness.
Okay. Well, you did it, man. You pulled it off. And congratulations. Nice solid dub. And I guess it gives you a better idea of like where things were at. Dude, you have been spending a lot of time in Boulder. You kind of exploring everything the Front Range has to offer. I know you're kind of getting out, and I saw you out with Kyle Richardson and a few others, like, Johnny Lima, some of like the staple athletes that are in that area. Like, what did you think of Boulder? Like, what was your take of it so far?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So on my way back, I met up with my friend Jack Kenzel. Him and Anna DeMonte were up in Breckenridge for the last couple of weeks, training up super high. So I met up with them, and actually did Quandary Peak.
Yeah.
Whatever. It was 2 weeks ago today. And that was pretty bad conditions, but it was super fun. And then, and then I got back down to Boulder and just been running with a bunch of different people. Yeah, like you said, Kyle Richardson, Johnny Lima, and just kind of a mix of everybody, it's felt like. But I've seen a lot of Johnny for sure. We've been hanging out quite a lot. And yeah, it's been really cool to just have so many people interested in doing some of the stuff I like doing. I definitely much prefer to be on steep terrain right now. It's kind of what I'm just like enjoying. And those guys are perfect for that. So just been doing the like steepest lines on green and then lapping that stuff. So yeah, it's been a really good time. I think the training since canyons has gone quite well. Yeah,
I was looking at your Strava, dude. You racked up some impressive like vert in the last few weeks. That was pretty wild. So looking good.
Yeah, the mileage looks pretty rough, but then I think if you look at the hours in vert, it looks a little nicer.
Yeah.
I guess last week the vert was a little low, but yeah, I've been aiming to be more like 20K or so a week, which is quite a bit for me.
Yeah. Solid amount of vertical for less than 100 miles a week. That's that's legit.
Yeah, it was like 20K and 70 miles.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's steep. That's a lot of, did you ever make it down to the springs to get on the incline?
No, I didn't. It would be something that would be fun to give a rip, but also I don't think I've totally figured out efforts on climbs at altitude. I would say before this, I've only had one other solid like performance, in my opinion, while at altitude. Yeah, I did like NAU's season opener cross country meet up at Buffalo Park a handful of years ago.
Okay.
And that went well, but I've always kind of struggled in terms of like race effort stuff at altitude.
No, it makes sense, dude. I mean, like it's just such a, I don't know. I feel like it's such an interesting delimiter, like to kind of figure out like, okay, how hard, because I obviously peeled into your Strava for the conversation, and obviously there's some things we'll chat about, but like, I think there's a lot more to it, and altitude is significantly harder, obviously, as opposed to when you're at sea level. There's just different factors. Like you can push a lot harder. There's a lot more extra things you could do. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah, it's a wildly different feel.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah, the taste of pennies. I gotta be honest with you, dude. I have to be honest. Like I would live at sea level if I could. Like altitude hurts. It's hard.
Like, well, I think you can just like also accumulate more quality of sessions.
Yes.
There's actually something Johnny and I have been talking about a lot, actually.
Yeah, no, to that point, I think you're 100% correct. I don't know. I just have found that altitude breaks me down a little bit. Like you said, like it will break you down a lot quicker. Like accumulation of like hard sessions, like just workouts. I feel like quality you can do more at sea level just because you can recover faster too. Like altitude is just so much harder to recover from, depending on where you're sleeping and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. So,
and I think there's a lot of like, obviously I think there's a ton of individual variance. I just listened to like this podcast with Killian this morning, and he was talking about people from Tibet that lived super high versus people that lived in the Andes super high have totally different adaptations to altitude. So like the people in Tibet, I think they didn't have blood values that were any higher, but yeah, so there's also like all of these other things that I think that everyone just adapts to altitude very differently. Sometimes I think I should probably be good at altitude. Like I've never felt altitude sickness. I've never felt like really weak at altitude. Like I've popped up and done like some of the 14ers and like jogging, and like I've always felt totally fine, and so but I just haven't figured out how that like push effort should feel.
No, for sure.
So, yeah.
Whereas it's interesting because you look at like someone like Cam, for instance, that lives at like 8,000 or 9,000 feet, and it's like,
yeah,
I wonder, and he's been there for a long time. Like I wonder because dude, it also works the opposite way too. Like I was just talking to Gwen Rudy, who's a ski mountaineer, and she was like, we were talking about like when she comes down to like from altitude to sea level, and she lives at 10,000 feet. and like it's almost like the viscosity of your blood is a little bit thicker, right? So like she says she feels
Yeah, I've struggled with that.
Yeah, so that's interesting too. To like maybe you have just like too much. I don't know if it's I guess too much blood volume or too much blood. I don't know. It's like your blood's thicker.
Iron.
So,
yeah, your blood gets thick. So basically, last time I came down from to Sunapee, I did a very similar thing. I'd been up in Flagstaff in my van, and occasionally sleeping up fairly high, like 10,000 feet. But doing most of my training between like probably 7,000 and 8,000 feet. So not super high, but higher than Boulder. And I drove back, and on the drive back, I was going to do, I think it was 12 by a K on like 90 seconds rest. And it was just supposed to be like, you know, it should have been an easy workout for me. I think they were supposed to be between 3 minutes and 3:10, which should be, I can go do that workout straight through. I could do 12K at 3-minute pace per K, and that should be fine. Yeah, I mean, I've done tempos like that plenty of times. I couldn't touch a single pace on any of the reps, and it was down in Tulsa on the way back through. There's this nice bike path there, and I mean, I was one of the worst workouts I've ever had in my life. It was like super demoralizing, and it was like my last workout really before Sunapee.
Were you freaking out? I would have been losing my shit, dude.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap, dude! I've just spent like the last 6 weeks up at altitude in a van with no heat for no reason. Yeah, so then I felt totally strong, like I felt good racing. But I also had the same thing in college. I came down from altitude for a race one time, and it just went terribly. I ran felt like I was sprinting the whole 8K, and so yeah, I'm coming down a slight bit, or like I'm not going to come out like 2 days before the race. That's why I'm heading back now.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Yeah, and I think you give plus you also give yourself I guess room to attempt to adapt back to humidity. I don't even know if that's a thing. You're probably already adapted, but like I wonder, because it's so funny. I talk to people from out west all the time, and they go out to the East Coast and they just don't understand humidity and they get wrecked. So it's just interesting to me, like to how long it takes the body to either readapt or to get that adaptation for humidity as well.
Yeah, and they do seem to be like a bit like I don't know the right word, but I'm going to say like adversarial, almost like conflicting adaptations. Because your blood plasma volume increase while training in like heat and humidity is just wild. So I don't know. I doubt it'll be very hot and humid, to be fair. Yeah. I'm hoping it's pouring rain and 40 degrees. That's my hope.
Terrible and cold and just nasty and muddy. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about we did talk a little bit about training. One thing I did want to bring up to you, and I can cut this out, I just wanted to ask you about it, was you seemed frustrated when your last Strava post on this I don't know if it was the past weekend or last week, on the Sanitas route, and then you go and threw down like a sub 4-minute mile, which I was like, oh my god, that's disgusting and like so insane. Are you over that frustration? Are you still frustrated? Does that give you fire going into the race? I'm just kind of curious as to what your thoughts are on that and like where you're at with that now.
Oh yeah. So I guess the background would be Mason. I'm sure, I think you just had Mason on, but yep. Mason had run they was doing a segment challenge on Sanitas through La Sportiva for like $1,000 for the winner. Mason had the top time on the segment at 25:48. I had looked at the splits and I was like, okay, I can run 25:48. I'm pretty confident on that. I know what I have to do for the climb. And that's, I feel pretty good about being able to do that. And then I knew that technical descent, I would be able to run. I felt confident I could do quicker than Mason because I had done it. One day I just like did an easy run where I did 4 laps on Sanitas. Mm-hmm. And so I had done that technical section quicker than him. On what I would say was like an easy day. And to be fair, I wasn't just like going very, very easy. I was like moving well, but not like really trying to press. And so I was like, okay, I think I have a good shot at this. So I'm going to go out and, we'll do it as a workout and, it'll be good, like Sunapee prep kind of thing. And initially I'd gone in and said, I want to do this 2 laps that morning, where I was going to do 1 like hard lap give myself 10, 15 minutes and then go out again and do another hard lap. But I went out and it all felt kind of messy. Like I clipped my head on a branch like 3 different times. So I lost my glasses at one point, lost my hat at another point.
Oh, wow.
It was just all clunky. I didn't feel good about the effort. That being said, I still ran hard. And my goal was just climb solid, but don't try to crush yourself so that you have legs in the descent, because it's immediately off the top is technical, and a bad fall would be easy to do. So yeah, I didn't check my time, but I knew I thought I was just under 25 minutes on it. And then I went out and tried to go find my sunglasses, which got stolen, which was a little bummer. But I'd run 24:51 on it and was all right, that's fine. And I didn't know, but Mason had just run 20 seconds quicker than that. So he had taken 80 seconds off of his time just about, and put up a really, really, really fast climb. So yeah, I mean, he just ran incredibly fast on it. And, so I was a bit bummed because I could have definitely I needed that $1,000. And, yeah, so then the next day, the Strava post you're talking about was that next day I went out to just see what the legs were, because that was the last day the segment was open. And I was I'm just going to go see how the legs are. I'll push the climb and just see what happens. And I got 10 minutes up and just couldn't get my mind and body into it because I was just tired, obviously. And so I was definitely pissed off at myself for sure. Because I walked around up at the summit and then was I don't know, did I even push that hard? Was I tired, or was I just being kind of did I totally wimp out on it? And then I was all right, well, we're doing a workout day anyway out of this, so I'm gonna move decently well down the techie part, and then I'll push the last couple minutes again. So yeah,
dude,
definitely frustrated with that.
I can understand your frustration, but holy shit, then you go and run a sub 4-minute mile down that, and that was just disgusting. I was wow, you're fit. You're so fit. Oh my God. So at least there's some confidence to draw out of it in a lot of ways. And I feel like it lights the fire as well. It's going to be really interesting. There's so much, a lot of really fit dudes going into this race. It's also home court for you, being at Sunapee. Yeah, I don't know. I just find, plus it's also dude, this race is not at altitude, right? So there's just so much you could pull out of it, in my opinion. The benefits probably.
Yeah, I'm still not sure how to think about it. Yeah. I bet I'm probably 20 or 30 pounds heavier than Mason. So I think that typically is harder at altitude. For climbing for sure. I'm 170. So I think that's usually, I don't know, I genuinely don't know what to pull out of it. And I think I could sit here all day thinking about why I didn't climb as fast as he did. I'm not sure I could have. If we had done that head to head, I don't think I would have done that ascent with him on that day. He ran really, really fast. It would be very interesting to see, because I know I could have pushed a lot harder, I think, that second half. And I do think, looking back at the splits, I think I fell asleep a bit on the from 4 to 10 minutes or something. And like I said, it just wasn't a clean effort. And I think that's the thing I was most frustrated with. I think there's some days where you get out and you're you hit all the lines that you want to do. There's micro beta kind of on that route where I think you can clean up a lot of time. And every time I would look down, I'd be well, what the heck? This is not the line I kind of wanted to be on. And I felt I kind of messed everything up. So I think that's the thing I was really frustrated with. Not necessarily that someone ran faster. It was just didn't feel I wasn't super impressed with my effort, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, Mason deserves to win that competition. He just did it fastest. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Listen, man. So no, I think it's a good way to sum it up too. I think it's a good way to put it. And like I said, there's only probably so many positives to take away going into Sunapee. All right, I do want to get into the race and talk a little bit about it. Obviously, this year is going to be a little bit different from 2023. Obviously, there's not a vertical race, and the course is going to be. I think the second loop is slightly different, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So obviously, from what I understand from a lot of these loop courses, like when I think of races like this, I think of like maybe like a Broken Arrow 46K, right? Where usually the person leading at the end of the first lap is not the person winning the race. Do you have any strategy that you think about when it comes to that? Or do you think, fuck that, throw that out the window, I'm just going to race to my best ability and just do what I got to do? Like, do you think about the strategic aspect of it going in, or how do you plan on attacking it?
Yeah. So, I mean, last time it was here, I'd done the vertical race the day before, and I woke up and I like told my friends there, I was like, I am going to be happy if I'm top 10. Like, I feel horrible. And I kind of had decided that second lap that I was just going to take some risks on the descent. And I felt like if I took risks on the descent that I would probably do decently well. But I just, woke up and my legs felt horrible. And then we got out on the course. And I found myself in third at the top of the first climb, just kind of running, not trying to press super hard, but running like, finding my own level. And honestly, what I did was I kind of got in my own head because a bunch of people had predicted Max King to win the race. And so I was keying off him a bit. I don't know why I let something like, like the free trail, like predictions of people like get in my head.
Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like people predicting, just like kind of silly because like I was in the race. I should have been paying attention to being in the race. So the bottom half of the climb, I was kind of like keying off Max a bit. And then at some point I was like, okay, well, I'm not running as hard as I should be if I'm racing. Got up to the climb in third, and then a quarter of the way down the climb, I was leading. As a descent, I was leading. And so I had a pretty big gap at the end of the first lap. I think some of the stuff played into my favor. There was a lot of mud. There was snow on the course. It was just like bad conditions. And I definitely run on that stuff in the steep grass, like that's soaking wet a lot more than I think everyone in that race. And yeah, so then I would just come through the first lap leading and just was like, all right, I just have to get up to the top. And if I'm not, way behind at the summit, I should be able to win. It's the classic style races with the, up down format can be so interesting. And I don't totally know how to best approach the tactics. It's the pure climbs you can't get dropped on. Like if you're in a VK and you get dropped, you've gone. But certainly with any race with like two big climbs and two big descents, there's a lot more going on. And I think the race up in Canada last year, the Canadian Championships, was like a really good show of that. So like Alexander Ricard was leading at the first summit, and then like the gaps decrease, and like him, Remy, and I are like, all running downhill quite quickly. And then you come back up, and then like, there's just so much stuff going on because everyone climbs differently the second time you have to climb, and then everyone descends differently the second time you have to descend. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think the host of guys that are going to go race is going to be really interesting. I think the race is going to go out stupidly fast. And I'm saying stupidly because I do think it'll be unintelligent how fast the race goes out is my prediction.
Yeah. True. Dude,
and I think people are going to,
people are so fit. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, I feel like all of the people like I know like Mason, Andy, Christian, Joan, they all are known for going out really fast. And I think they're all going to be really fit. I don't know how that's going to play out in a group setting. And it's hard to say like how Christian handles the second lap if he hasn't been running as much. The biking should be great for climbing fitness, but then like similar idea with Andy. Andy's very good on these classic races. But he hasn't been doing a ton of vert. So it's like, how will he climb and descend the second lap? I don't know how. I have no predictions, really. I don't know how it'll go.
I have to be honest with you. The only prediction I have, honestly, is something with you and like, I just think Mason has evolved and is in a different level now. So I have you guys in the mix. It's the only pick I can possibly have as of right now until I actually sit down to think about it. But like, it's just going to be the other thing, dude. I think like, just not to like hype you up too much or blow smoke up your ass, but also like the fact that you've won here before and like there's just that confidence that comes with it. You're hungry. You've done really well. It's also home trails. So once you're back in New Hampshire, if you want to, you could practice on it. I don't know. I just think there's something more to that as opposed to guys having to fly out on a Thursday, race on a Sunday. It's not always smooth. And, not to mention it's like also getting your sleep used to, East Coast time, which fucks people up. So I think there's a lot to it where you get a little bit of an advantage in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm going to try to convince Tom Hooper to not mow any of the descent. So I'm hoping it's just like 4 foot tall, like ferns and grass the whole way down. And, I think if that happened, I would win, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, my goal for the race is certainly I want to win. And I think the way I have to do that is climb really tough and then, make people uncomfortable in the descent. And then that second climb, you go up the same way for half the climb, and then you pop into trails, which are going to be technical and tough. And yeah, I mean, it's just going to be an interesting race. I don't know how it'll play out, but my goal definitely is to win. But if I don't win, I certainly want to try to make the team. That's really important to me. I'm definitely going to be like disappointed with myself if I don't make the team, but really, I'm getting pretty excited for the race, and it'll be nice that it's going to be slightly better time of year than last time we raced at Sunapee.
That's true. What was it? April last time around? Still there? Late March? Or
yeah, it was like April 30th.
Okay.
I mean, it was snowing up top, raining at the bottom. Like it's like that stick season in New England, so it's like kind of like the gloomiest 2 weeks of the year. So it'll be nice that there's some green. And yeah, I'm excited for there just to be a bunch of people out there. I think it'll be a fun weekend for sure.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. I think there's more eyes on it this year than in previous years too. I think that Worlds matters to people, I think a bit more this time around as opposed to 2023. I think people so I think people are stoked on it. I think it's going to be really interesting to follow along. And yeah, man, what, I got to ask you this, what shoes are you wearing on race day? Are you a Catamount Agile guy or like, what are you rocking these days?
Oh, the Agiles are so good. Yeah. I ran in the Agiles this morning. I did, what I do? I did a lap up the steep stuff on green. So I did like 6.6 with 3,300 feet.
Nice.
And, I really like the Agiles. I think they're really good for that kind of race. And I think it's just like, I don't like much shoe under my foot for sure. I mean, you could almost, I guess that's probably stupid, but I mean, if it was grassy, certainly the descents, you could run barefoot. You'd be fine.
Okay.
So, I don't want there's actually a video of Remy year before last, I think, at Loon. And I was up there, but I was like sick. I was recovering from like long COVID. And so I wasn't racing, but he ran past and I had Birkenstocks on. And so I was like going to like chase him for like a video on like descending at Loon. But I had to like kick off my shoes and I just like chased him barefoot because like the stuff is just grass. So yeah, you don't need a ton of shoe. And I think the Agiles are like perfect, like dialed, minimal. And with the sock upper, if it's muddy, they don't pop off. The course at Sunapee was so muddy the day after the race, or 2 days, I don't remember. I walked around and picked up all the course markings with Tom, and you're just like walking and your shoe comes off because it gets sucked off in the mud. So
that's not fun.
They were definitely good in that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure the lugs have a solid traction as well to kind of keep you in place and shit like that. So it's good.
Yep. Yep. And then, yeah, so that first lap you could wear whatever for sure. And then the second lap is technical, that second half of the climb. And you're just like traversing a bit across the mountain in a couple spots where it's like fairly flat, but just like windy, rooty, rocky. Yeah. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, listen, Dan, I don't want to take all your time, man. I think this is a good place to put a pin in it. Dude, I really appreciate it. I know you're busy and I know you're on the road. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
No, we're good.
I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, just pulled over on the side of 70, kind of watching a storm roll past. It's all good.
Oh, nice, dude. Nice. Appreciate you. Yo, are you going to be, I was planning on being at Cannon, but I'm like working through a small injury, so I'm probably not going to be out there. Are you going to be at Killington?
Oh, so I would love to do Killington, but I have every race on the planet seems to be June 28th. Like, yeah. I think there's probably 4 races right now that I've been looking at that I would love to do that are that day, but I have a family wedding that I just can't bail on. So
understood.
Maybe like Killington and then like Marathon de Mont Blanc and stuff are kind of next year things.
Gotcha. For sure.
Yeah.
Listen, dude, I'm wishing you
but Cannon for sure.
Okay. Oh no, nice. Dude, I'll hit you up when I'm up there. I'm going to be up there, like I'll be in upstate New York, like Adirondack area for like a month, like starting like June all the way through like early July. So I will.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I might go up to the Adirondacks that like second week of June. I've got some friends heading out there, so
sweet.
I think there's a little race out there.
Dude, I
don't remember what it's called.
Before I let you go, I found out about this little. It's not a very competitive race, but they do this like race called the Great Adirondack Trail Race, which is like an up down race. But you have to like.
I think it's the 14th.
Yeah, I was really thinking about it. I'm like, maybe I'll do that if I can't do Cannon. But I was like, you have to, in order to get into it, you have to like call on this like random day, and they only have like X amount of spots available, and the only way to get in is like for a phone call at like 9:00 in the morning to this like run shop. It's actually like kind of neat.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I mean, some of the stuff out there is awesome. I haven't spent almost any time in the Adirondacks, but I've done that one race. I did White Fates that year, a couple years ago for U.S. Championships.
Yeah.
Which went horribly. That was my first trail race, and yeah. So I mean, everything looks awesome. So I think I'm gonna head out there. So maybe I'll see you out there.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, listen, Dan, I don't want to take up all your time. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for coming on. And this will be out the week of the race. So wishing you the best of luck.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Yep. Listen up, guys. The Steep Stuff podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Direction USA. Guys, I am so excited. UD just dropped their new Race Vest 6-liter and Ultra Vest 12-liter in 2 beautiful aesthetic colors. You guys got to check these new vests out. They're dynamic in ways like that you just have never seen from an Ultimate Direction vest. Very stretchy, lots of storage, beautiful aesthetic colorways coming to you in a new, like a white and blue and an onyx and green. Just absolutely beautiful vests. I think these ones are just like some of the best products we've ever dropped, and I'm so excited for you guys to try them out. Hop on ultimatedirection.com and use code SteepStuffPod. Again, that's SteepStuffPod for 25% off your new vest. I mean, they're already affordably priced, but 25% off is just going to make it so much more affordable for folks in an already increasingly expensive trail running environment. So hop on ultimatedirection.com, get yourself a new vest, a pack, or any hydration solution, and let me know what you guys think.